Hi, my name is Audrey.x.mariee. Welcome back to my channel. We're gonna be going over the books I read in June. I didn't fully physically read any of these books, which is not normal for me, but at the beginning of June, I started my new job. I did pull out my physical copies here and there to follow it with the audiobook, but I didn't fully physically read a book. So it's just a little different than what my normal wrap-ups are or my normal reading routine or tendencies. It was also me trying to get a schedule down and figuring out my flow and how much energy I have and whatnot, because I've done internships before, but this is a full-time job, different responsibilities than just an intern. So I'm having fun with my job and I'm loving it, but it's getting into all my reading. But anyways, on to the books I ended up reading. I ended up reading 5 books, so not bad. The first 2 books are in the same series together. I will admit I don't remember which book had what info and what storyline because I just read them back to back, and I did also fall asleep while listening to them. I would play them while I was like hunkering down to fall asleep, and I would have to backtrack a lot in these books because I would fall asleep and I would be like, shoot, where was I? What is the last bit I remember? The first 2 books I ended up reading was Defy Me and Imagine Me, the last 2 books in the main Shatter Me series. So I was able to wrap that up, which is so exciting. So I now know their story. Not my favorite books in the series, but I did enjoy them. I did enjoy Defy Me more than Imagine Me, because Imagine Me was just wrapping up a lot and Defy Me was preparing you for the wrap-up, so there was a lot of tension and a lot of backstory in Defy Me over Imagine Me. I did enjoy the 2. I don't really remember a whole lot while I was listening to them, which sucks. I really need to get back into my reading journal so I can look back and read my thoughts of these books to give y'all a full rundown of the books I was reading, because I don't remember at the moment, which sucks to give y'all feedback on the books I read, because the only ones I really remember are the more recent books that I've read. So I'm just glad to wrap up their story. I've been looking for the last couple of books for a while now, and I finally got them, so I was able to wrap it up, and I think it was time for me to wrap up their story because I wasn't really in the depths of the story all that much. I see why people like it, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I have to continue this series. I'm attached to these characters, so it didn't really grab my attention really for me to finish up the series. It was just that when I get around to it, I'll get around to it. And I will say, once you get back into the world after everything that happened before Defy Me, it makes sense as to why I didn't want to stop, because I was just like, oh my god, something's happened. We gotta figure out what's going on and where the story's going. The series is okay. I can see why people liked it when they were in high school, but as a 23-year-old, it was just teeny, which makes sense because it's a YA romance, teenage romance. I did love the dystopian feel. It pulled me back into my childhood with the Hunger Games and the Divergent series, all of those dystopian series. It pulled me back into the vibe of my childhood. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really loved the bond between Kenji and Juliet as just friends and being so close to one another, and I loved how Kenji kept pushing Eren because Juliet and Eren were together. Kenji was just like, I have to deal with him because he's attached with Juliet. So really enjoyed that aspect of the entire series, and just how everything was all connected and how we get the backstory of all the stuff prior to the first book. And if you get to see everything, you see their history, you see what happened to them. So I really did enjoy that. It was a good wrap up of the series, I will admit. So the next book I read was The Villa. I have had the physical book of this for a good while now. I just got it from Ollie's for really cheap because I was like, oh, I've heard, I think Haley Pham read it and she said it was pretty decent or something, and it was just on my radar because I did really like the cover, but I was not expecting what was inside this book. I was stunned by the ending of it. Something about it just dragged on and I wasn't fully in the story. It was the perfect book for me just to lay out and tan for a little bit and listen to in the background and not be super focused on it. It wasn't really high stakes. You have the past and then you have the present of these timelines of these characters in this villa. You get the murder mystery storyline, and then you get the present day of knowing this storyline and her trying to figure out what was actually happening in the past So you're getting breadcrumbs of the past to get the reveal of what the story of the murder was. And then you get the present day, and then you get the present day drama of this divorce and friendship going on in this villa while they're authors. So you're seeing this timeline while they're connected. It's very intriguing. I did really like that. It was really easy to follow what timeline you were in, especially since I was listening to the audiobook. Some of the characters were making me mad, both in the present and the past. But the connections between both timelines was really cool. Some of the characters made me mad. Timeline's connection was pretty cool. I was shocked by the ending, and I was shocked by another thing that happened in the present day near the end. I did enjoy my time while reading this or listening to it. I wasn't really itching to pick it up at all. It was just something to play in the background, and not like a typical romance or fantasy that I read, so it was just getting me out of my comfort zone a little bit. I just loved the back and forth of the timelines. And even though the characters weren't blood related or anything, they were connected through this mystery intrigue that was going on. I then read The Rose Bargain. I've been so intrigued by this book for a while now, especially since it said that certain books that I've read before, if you read this book or this book, you would enjoy this book. I was so intrigued. I think the books that it said or brought the comparison into, I've read, or I always was intrigued by them. So I finally was just like, I want to pick up this book. I think it's something I would enjoy, and it's like a fantasy romance. So I decided to pick it up a while back, and I finally got around to reading it, and I think I liked it more than I thought I was. I really enjoyed how the author jumped into the point of views of other characters rather than just the two main characters in the book. So you were able to see from some of the side characters what was going on in their lives during bits and pieces of the books, and it made sense when it was introduced, these different point of views into the story. So you saw the flow and what was going on behind the scenes, because I've always been intrigued of the backstory of some characters, but you don't get the backstory of those characters in their point of view at any point. You only hear it from them talking, really. But this was really intriguing because you got to see their point of view and their thoughts throughout the book. And the chapters were titled based on who you were jumping randomly into. I really did enjoy that. I feel like if I had a sister, I probably would connect with the sisterly bond between the two characters in this book a bit more. I don't have a sister. I only have a brother. So it's kind of hard for me to fully grasp what the two girls were dealing with. I understand the sibling relationship, but just since they were sisters, it's a little different than what I grew up with. But I did enjoy the back and forth between the characters and the banter, and the ending, I was very shocked at the ending. I really liked the fantasy aspect of it. Even though it wasn't super high fantasy, it made sense for the book and the storyline. So I really do recommend this book, and I was so excited to jump into the second book after finishing the first one. It was so good. I've been on the hunt for it. I've seen it at a couple different places, but I don't want the sprayed pages version. I'd rather just have a purple copy of it and not like exclusive special edition. I just want a plain purple copy of the book. I don't want anything fancy because I don't want to pay for that. I just want the normal hardcover version to match the first one. The last book I got around to reading in June was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have been so intrigued by this because when the press tour of the movie came out, everybody was like, oh my god, you have to go watch this. It's so good. And then after it got released, it was like crickets. Nobody talked about it. So I've always been intrigued as to the movie specifically, but also when the book got released, people were talking about it a lot, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about it since. And since Hamich's book, Sunrise on the Reaping, the book and the movie came out, or is about to come out, everybody's been talking about it again. So I figured since I haven't read President Snow's prequel, I would pick it up and read it. And I liked bits and pieces of it, but I wasn't really connected to the characters or itching to pick up the book. It was okay. I liked the Hunger Games storyline and seeing the background of the 10th Hunger Games. President Snow's influence into the Hunger Games made it more of a prominent thing going on, but the ending kind of confused me because I was like, oh, where are we going from here? The Hunger Games is done, what is going on now? And then it makes sense as to where the book went, and the ending made sense as to the history of Snow and his character development, but also not really character development, I guess. You think he's thinking right, you're thinking he's gonna change and he's gonna follow with the people that don't support the Capitol, but he never does. He thinks about it and then he's like, actually, I'm not gonna do that. I follow the Capitol, let's go that way. I enjoyed portions of it, and coming to realize while I was reading it or while I was listening to it how things were gonna go about in the book. I figured about the snakes, I figured about the mockingjays were gonna be a thing. Certain things were very obvious to me, but now I gotta go watch the movie at some point. I don't even know what streaming services it's on or what I'll be watching it on. Also, listening to the audiobooks, I didn't really enjoy the songs. The person singing the songs in the audiobooks were not great, and every single time one of them started in the book, I just tuned them out. I figured there was a lot of connections or important info in the songs, maybe, I don't know. I just know the Hanging Tree one was the one that was sung in the Hunger Games movies, but I just could not get over how bad the audiobook singing was. Maybe since I had it on 2x speeds, that's what messed it up, but it was just not it at all. And I feel bad for saying that. Maybe the person is actually a good singer, but I did not vibe with it whatsoever, unfortunately. So it was very intriguing to seeing the difference between the 10th in this one versus the actual Hunger Games trilogy Hunger Games, because how different and how much time can change the Hunger Games from one book to the other book because of how many years has passed. It makes sense because time changes, evolution, technology advancements make sense in the story, but oh my god, I was kind of surprised at how different the Hunger Games were. So now I need to get to Haymitch's story. Maybe I'll wait for the movie to come out on a streaming service and the book to be a paperback. Maybe I'll wait till then, but I'm excited. The book was okay. It was okay. Not my favorite at all of the series, but those are the books I read in June. I had a pretty decent reading month. Not terrible, not too bad. I didn't have a 1-star. I didn't have a 5-star. So that's how the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you have amazing months. Sometimes you just have terrible months where you're getting 1 star after another. I'm gonna give you a little spoiler of the current book I'm reading in July. I've already finished one book, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is. But I'll tell you what I'm currently physically working on, and that is The Mistake. I'm continuing the off-campus series, and I'm excited to continue this series. A lot has happened between the two characters already, but you're gonna have to wait for my reading vlog for any updates, really, of my thoughts. But just know I'm continuing the series, and you'll have to check out my other videos to see my thoughts and feelings on this book. I'm keeping you on your toes. But with that, thank you so much for watching this video. Go check out my other reading vlogs if you're interested in seeing my greater thoughts and feelings of these books while I'm reading them. I'm doing my best. I'm getting the schedule of reading and giving you updates. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm still struggling, so maybe these books don't have that many reading updates while I'm reading them. So I'm sorry. I really don't remember how much I filmed this past month, but I'm doing my best. Go check out my previous reading vlogs, or go check out my previous monthly wrap-ups if you just want a quick recap of the books I've read so far this year. I'm pretty sure I've done one every single month this year, and I'm staying on top of it. I'm doing my best to stay on top of it. Maybe it's coming out a month later than it probably should, but I get you the content. I'm still figuring out my schedule. Give me a little bit of grace, okay? But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking time out of your morning, your evening, and your night, clicking on this video and listening to me yap about books. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to check out more videos of mine. I highly recommend them. I do say so myself. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.